All right, let's get into our fantasy talk. Start 'em, sit 'em. Kansas City coming to town this Sunday, 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, versus our Detroit Lions. And yeah, this might be a huge stackable slate right here for my daily fantasy people, my FanDuel and DraftKings people. And don't forget, on FanDuel you could play the Pick'em series and get your chance at a pot of money. I can't remember how much it is. 100% free. So check that out as well. And standard. But let's talk about it. We'll start off with Kansas City. Obviously, I think y'all know what my lock of the week is for this game is Patrick Mahomes, boy. He's an absolute lock, and you got to watch out for him at any given time, especially that second quarter. You got to limit him, man. That's imperative that you limit him in the second quarter, man. And he can go off at any time. He make a lot of throws down the field. The Lions are going to have to eliminate the big play. You know what I'm saying? It might be a point where they might only have to put, 6 men in the box. You know what I'm saying? And just, and just play the pass and really just play them deep and make Harmon and Robinson and Sammy Watkins beat you underneath. But the problem is they can beat you underneath. You got to wrap up and tackle. The Lions have to tackle in this game, but my homeboy, he can use his legs. You can't forget that. So the Lions play a ton of man cover, so he might get you a touchdown rushing. He might get you a few yards with his feet as well too in the man cover scheme. But his game is he want to play from the pocket. But you forget because a lot of teams haven't really made him, use his legs, and he can use his legs, man. So he's the absolute lock of this game. It's just, he's the overall guy that I'm locking in, okay? It's just, 2 ways around it, man. He probably projected to get 4 touchdowns and maybe, couple with his feet. So it's more, I think it's going to be a high-scoring game. But a lot of times in these situations where on paper you can't find no way why it's not a high-scoring game, or on paper in boxing you can't see how this fight can end in a knockout, or MMA you can't see how this fight don't end up in a knockout or a submission, and it does. So you really never know in the NFL week by week how guys feeling health-wise and scheme-wise. But I like Travis Kelce in this game as well. I like him. I like him. If they gonna be trying to prevent the deep pass, Kelce be able to work underneath. But if I'm the Lions, I'm bracketing him. And maybe I go one-on-one, but then I'm bracketing Sammy Watkins. But I look for him to have at least a touchdown or 2. Sammy Watkins, basically their receivers like pick your poison. It could be Robinson, it could be Harmon, it could be Watkins. But when you got speedy receivers like these guys, what you want to do is you want to send a message early. You want to hit somebody. And that's why you play bump and run, all right? And a lot of people say if you miss it, they gone. But, hey, you put help over the top. If you can throw off their timing a little bit and you can get hands on them at the line, and I don't see why they can't get hands on some of these receivers, you get hands on the line and you get pressure there to throw the timing off. But, hey, you can play off, but these guys can take it to the house too. So, at the end of the day, I just think Watkins in the slot. I think Justin Coleman will do well on him, but Watkins is a guy that can run a wheel, that can run the whip, run the post, can run the corner route out the slot. Game 1 of this year, he had a huge game. You have to wrap up. You have to tackle him, and you got to hit him, man. He's very, very injury prone, but you got to hit the guy. But Watkins is the receiver that I think I'm watching. But guess what? It's a carousel. Harmon can get some. Robinson can get some. It can be any other 3 receivers if somebody else can get some as well too. So, at the end of the day, if you playing daily and you want to stack Mahomes with somebody, it's kind of like the Patriots. You don't know if Burkhead gonna get it, the kid from Wisconsin, James White, or you don't know if Sony Michel gonna get it. You don't know who Patrick Mahomes boy gonna go off to. All right, you say, oh, Travis Kelce really ain't done much in a couple weeks, or he really ain't had that big game. I just think he gonna go to Robinson or Watkins, and then Kelce have a big game. So you really never know with them. But I'm gonna go ahead and spotlight Sammy Watkins. Who am I fading on this side? It's the Kansas City defense. I'm fading Kansas City D Sunday. I don't think it's the biggest fade of the game. I don't think it's the biggest fade of the game, and I'll give you the biggest fade of the game in a minute. But definitely fading their defense. Lions-wise, Stafford not a bad pick at all. At the end of the day, he just seems not in games where you say, "Oh, this defense sorry," or in games like Arizona where people say, "Oh, he played a great game," which he didn't score in the first or the third quarter. You know, games where he supposed to really go crazy and have a Patrick Mahomes type of day where have 4 touchdowns with 350, 400 yards through the air. He just seems it just seems like you never could trust Matthew Stafford to really have those great, big, gaudy touchdown days. He had a lot of yards, but it'd be a ton of field goals and turnovers. So at the end of the day, he ain't really a lock. He iffy. I see just so many other better choices out there this week than Matthew Stafford, but I'm definitely not fading him. If he seemed to have the best matchup on my standard fantasy team, yeah. But if I'm in the daily fantasy football world, maybe you pick him because he'd be low owned. So maybe something to look at. But Kerryon Johnson, I like him this week as well too. He should have some things going. They should involve him more in the passing game. I think that'll make him a daily threat, but they should be able to get something going at least versus Kansas City. They got something going versus San Diego with Los Angeles, who had a shitty run defense as well too. But they should have some. They should be able to get something going versus Kansas City. The receiver I like this week, I kind of went over. I thought about Amendola in the slot can have a big week. I think Kenny Galladay can have a big deep week, but I like Marvin Jones to have a big game this week. Don't ask me why; it's just more of a feeling. He kind of heated up last week. I look for him to have, if Stafford go crazy, I look for him to have multiple touchdowns going down the field. I do, or in the red zone being a threat. Somebody they locking on. They probably lock in on Hockenson. They lock in on Johnson. They'll lock in on Galladay, and I think him and Amendola is gonna have some chances to do well. And, my sleeper for the Lions is going to be T.J. Hockenson. I like Hockenson to be the sleeper this week. And I'll give you Kansas City sleeper. I forgot. I like Hockenson to be the sleeper this week for the Lions. A little bit under weather still, but I like Hockenson. I think he can have a multi-touchdown type of game. I like the matchup. I think they might put like Deron Lee or somebody on him, but I think he's going to make the adjustment this week. And, he going to look at the film, and he not going to be just thinking, and then he got to think and catch. I think he going to redeem himself, and I think he could be a huge factor if the Lions are competitive and win this game. My fade of the week, is going to be Lions defense. That's my absolute fade of the week for this game. Definitely fading the Lions defense against Patrick Mahomes, boy. I shouldn't have to explain it. Their offense is so explosive. It's so just, God, it's hard to contain them for 4 quarters. And obviously, I could be wrong. My homeboy is human. It's like Ivan Drago. You cut him. He's human. He's not a machine. So, you know how that go. But if I had a sleeper from Kansas City, it'd probably be whichever running back start. I know Williams was hurt. McCoy was hurt. My sleeper would probably be the running back for Kansas City. LaShawn McCoy probably going to get the play. So, a guy I look for, has some success versus the Lions in preseason. I know it's preseason, but he'd be my sleeper for the game. But other guys, you can look for Amendola to have a huge game against Kansas City nickel cornerback. You can look for Robinson, Harmon to have a good game. But really, I'll do a final thoughts live tomorrow. I try to get to it, or Sunday morning. Really what you want to do is with these receivers, you want them to catch in traffic. You know what I'm saying? You don't want to let them get behind you. You don't want to let them, catch the ball in space with Green in front of them. You know what I'm saying? Deep down the field. You want to make them catch in traffic. When they catch the ball, you want to hit them. You want to make them pay. Guarantee you they're going to drop. They're going to hit. They have to set the tone early. They're going to drop some balls. Once you hit these small receivers, that's how you deal with small receivers. You get hands on them. You get physical with them. And when they catch the ball, you got to be able to hit them. But the Lions have to wrap up. And they got to send a message for early. They have to have an enforcer like Quadre Diggs, make them hear footsteps down the middle of the field, because with Patrick Mahomes, boy, you don't want him to, at the end of the day, it takes time for you to go 5, 7-step drop, hitch, 5 and a hitch, 7 steps, and throw it 30, 40 yards. You got to have time. Can't give him time. You want him to go through his progressions, make throws in tight windows. That's what you want. You want to make him make sporadic decisions. And that means you got to get some pressure, and you got to do a pass rush on him. So I look for the Lions to blitz more than usual, but I'll get into that tomorrow and make him make quick decisions. But, hey, Mercy Sports Talk. Let me know what you think about the fantasy video. Don't forget me on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Reach out to the email. Want to make a donation? Link description. Best way to donate. Share the video one time for the one time we gone.